Hey, what's up, Mixer? Welcome to This Week in the Mixer, episode 2.12, 2.12, the Stan Humphries edition, season 2. Gonna talk today a little NFL news. Gonna talk some actual fantasy football stuff, since this is a fantasy football show, so that'll be a nice change of pace. And gonna finish it up with some Padres talk. And if you also notice, I'm not driving, so hopefully that'll bump up the quality a little bit. Won't have to listen to the wind coming in through my windows, since I drive a car, probably the last non-air conditioning car ever made. And yeah, you won't have to worry about people cutting me off and shit. So just want to get straight into it. Talk about the biggest story of the NFL preseason, Helmet Gate. That's right. It's been the talk of everyone. For those who don't have Twitter, or just don't pay attention, Antonio Brown was using, he wanted to use his helmet from, it's basically the helmet that he's used his whole career. He brought it over from the Steelers, but part of the NFL's rule in place to cover their ass with regards to player safety was that their helmets have to be certified. So they have to be approved by, as far as manufacturer goes, meet a certain safety rating, and then they have to be no older than 10 years old. And I guess AB's helmet has expired, essentially. It's like an old piece of fruit, which I know a lot about. It's gone past the 10-year mark, and he can't use it anymore, basically. And he's not happy about it. So there's a big Twitter thread about everything where he was told he couldn't use it. He came back out on the field with the same helmet. They told him, gotta take it off. Then he spray painted it, so I don't, that part of the story doesn't really make sense to me. So was he out there practicing with it in Steelers colors, or did he have two of them and they took away the first one that they had converted to Raiders, and then he had another backup one that was expired? That whole part doesn't make sense. Maybe this is just maybe I don't know. I don't get that detail, but it's not really important. The important thing is he couldn't use his helmet. He said if he couldn't use that exact helmet, he was going to retire at one point. So, he applied for whatever, a special dispensation, or God, who knows what the language is. Basically, an exception to use that helmet, and the NFL denied it, and AB said okay and came back. He also put out on Twitter that if anybody had one that was less than 10 years old, that he would give them a signed Raiders helmet or signed gear or something. And I guess there are a few out there. I listened to the podcast Part of My Take, and they were able to find some of that exact helmet in his exact size. So we'll see if there's more to that story. If he'll eventually get one that matches his old mark. But it's just a wild story. He's been acting kind of eccentric the last few years, but he's he is the best wide receiver in the league. we'll see how he does with Oakland and a questionable quarterback in Derek Carr. But AB is back, grody feet and all, and can't wait to see what he does on the field. Yeah, maybe he'll come to the first game in a hot air balloon too. That would be something. But yeah, I mean, with all this behavior, you definitely don't want to take him in the first 3 rounds of your draft. Definitely don't take him. I mean, you just shouldn't do it. You just leave him there for some other owner who has owned him on their team for 4 or 5 years now. Let them deal with the headache of owning him. Next piece of NFL preseason news, I wanted to touch on the continued holdouts for Melvin Gordon and Zeke. I did hear a little nugget that Melvin Gordon can accrue his year of service. So I remember this being part of the Le'Veon Bell story last year, where if he came back after week 8 or something, that he would still get, I don't know, extra year towards free agency or something like that is what it came out to. But basically, as that piece applies to Melvin Gordon, is if he reports by week 9, it counts as, an extra year of his rookie contract. So, that being said, other than his game checks, there's not much incentive for him to show up and report before week 9. It could be it is risky in a sense for Melvin Gordon to go that route. The Chargers are historically bad at dealing with these type of situations, and historically bitter when it comes to if they feel like they've been disrespected, like they would probably feel in this case. The Chargers technically control Melvin Gordon for this season plus 2 more, because they can always franchise tag him next year and the year after. However, you run into kind of the Le'Veon Bell situation where Le'Veon was franchise tagged, and that's why he sat out, because he wanted a longer contract in case he got injured. Basically, if you play under the franchise tag, even though a franchise running back, I think they earn, what do they earn? It's like the average of the top 5 playing at the position. So I think those are around, it'd probably be around 10 million a year, 10, 11, 12 million a year. If he were to hold out, then he'd be forfeiting that money. But where am I going with this? If Melvin Gordon doesn't report to week 9, are the Chargers going to franchise tag him out of spite? And then he'll sit out, 2 more years? I don't see that happening. I don't see the Chargers franchise tagging him if he does sit out till week 9. So, I mean, that kind of looks like the most likely outcome at this point for Melvin Gordon. With Zeke, I still don't fully understand that situation. Because I believe he still has 2 years left on his rookie contract. So for a while, the main thing I was hearing was that they were close to making a deal. Now it sounds like they're not close. So I don't know if he can, if since he's not in the last year of his contract, if he can wait until week 9 and then report and still accrue that extra year. NFL contracts are crazy. If only we had a lawyer who knew legalese and who could like pour over that, who wasn't a fraud. If only we had that in our league, we could, get some real valuable insight. But, oh well. What to do? So, as it stands right now, definitely don't draft either one until the double-digit rounds of your fantasy draft, because you'd be taking a huge risk that only somebody with enormous balls would make. Next, what you're all coming for, we're going to pull back the curtain into my ranks a little bit. We're going to talk about my top 10 fantasy football players for 2019. Now, this isn't going to be 1 to 10 in order, so you're not going to see, how my first round grades are going to look per se. Also, these aren't even necessarily the guys that I would pick in order in the first round. I tried to think of it this way. If I had 10 first round picks, these would be the 10 guys that I would pick. So, and again, in no particular order. But, first, Alvin Kamara. He's the Tyreek Hill of the running back position. Every time he touches the ball, he's at risk, or he's not at risk, but he could take it to the house. Really good in the passing game. Perfect for the Saints offense. Really dynamic on the outside. Not so much of an in between the tackles guy, but he does have the speed and elusiveness where he can make it work and he can still do damage in between the tackles. He's just not a bruiser. Scores a lot of touchdowns, makes a lot of big plays. He started as this late round dart throw that draft nicks were mentioning. But we hear those every year, and usually none of them pan out. Christine Michael, Felix Jones, who else? Javid Best every year when he was coming back from injury. The list is endless. But Kamara hit really big. I think it was by week 5 that season he was tearing it up. But he's he's really one of the top players in the NFL, not just fantasy football players, and he's really fun to watch. Now Mark Ingram's out, so I don't really expect him to get an increased workload though. They brought in Latavius Murray, who will probably take over as the goal line back, in between the tackles bruiser. They used to line the two of them up on the field at the same time, so it'll be interesting to see how they use the two of them together. But I expect Kamara shouldn't see a dip in his production at all. Should have similar numbers to prior years. 1 second, guys. All right, second, Lev Bell. After a year off, he should have fresh legs. With the Jets now, so that could be a problem. Sam Darnold might, second year Sam Darnold, can he lead a powerful offense? The Jets offensive line isn't as good as the Steelers, but Lev Bell is probably the most patient runner the NFL has ever seen. Really skilled. There were some rumors that Le'Veon put on some weight in his year off. He was a little bit bigger when he first started with the Steelers. He lost weight, and then that's when he became the dominant player that he was/is. And with this new offense, it'll be a risk for anybody who takes him in the first round, but he's been the best running back in the league in the past 5, 6, 7 years. So, and he stood out even over guys like Gurley and Zeke. So the Jets are going to rely on him a little more heavily than the Steelers did. So he could even have a further increased workload, if you can believe that. I think he had, like a 90% share when he was in Pittsburgh. So, but can the Jets offense support it? Who knows? There are some question marks with Lev Bell, but he still gets a first-round grade, and excited to see what he can do. Number 3, Saquon Barkley. What can you say? He's the best pass-catching back. He's probably the best running, carrying the rock back, too. He's a beast. The only knock on him is he plays for the god-awful, terrible Giants with either Daniel Jones or Sheila Manning as quarterback. This is a team that you can't expect to score more than 17 points a week. So you gotta hope that Saquon gets at least one touchdown and a bunch of catches. Based on the rest of the team, I think that's very likely. You got to worry about him wearing down towards the end of the season. They're going to rely on him even, as heavily as any team relies on any player, well, any non-quarterback. And, yeah, the payoff could be huge, or he could be on IR by week 6. 4th on the list, DeAndre Hopkins. He's been a top 3 NFL wide receiver for a few years now. Makes just insane catches. One of them knocked me out of the playoffs one year. Really good downfield, really good at contested catches. Really physical for how small he is. A lot of people try to jam him, and he just swats their hands and just they just can't stay with him. He's got that. We should have Deshaun Watson throwing him the ball, so he should be working with the best quarterback he's had in his career. Magic could happen. He could even, he could have his best season. Deshaun Watson is an injury risk because of his, running attributes. So, it should be exciting, though. The Houston offense should be fun to watch this year. Fifth on the list, Christian McCaffrey in a Norv Turner offense. I know. It pains me to say it, but very productive passing game. Very productive in the passing game. Big workload for McCaffrey. He's very similar to Kamara, actually, the way he plays. A little less dynamic, but just as dangerous. Some concerns with Cam Newton, who's been undergoing some injuries lately. Last few seasons, he had his shoulder, I guess, dislocating last year or something a few times. So we'll see. We'll have to see how well he's recovered from that. And I don't know. Cam Newton could do it. Could get it done on the ground when he needs to. I feel like a lot of Carolina games, they're down late, and then the defenses get tired, and Cam is able to bring them back. So I feel like Carolina's stolen a few games, and I don't know. I don't know if Cam's really as great of a quarterback as everybody says he is. But anyway, I know Norv Turner isn't as good as the offensive coordinator as people give him credit for. So, but I do know Christian McCaffrey's pretty damn good. So he gets a first round draft grade. He's at the pointy end of the draft, and would love to have him on any one of my teams. Sixth on the list, the only quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. What can you say? First full season last year, took the league by storm. He's throwing passes left-handed. He's throwing passes no look. He's throwing passes like 70, 80 yards to Tyreek Hill. The dude is just a monster. Tyreek's going to be there the full season despite off-the-field issues. So, second full season with Andy Reid, who usually produces a lot of fantasy output. But he was the QB1 last year. No QB1 has repeated since Dante Culpepper, right? I can't remember the year. Was it like 2002? 99? I don't know. Not important the year, I guess, but yeah, it's been a while. But that's not really like, that's just kind of like a statistical anomaly. That's not really. I don't know. I don't think there's anything you can read into there. So, Mahomes, only quarterback on the list. Seventh, we have David Johnson. Should be in that. Should do well in that revamped Arizona air raid offense with Kyler Murray. Here they're going to be running a lot of 4 wide receiver sets. Going to be really quick paced. Cliff Kingsbury, I believe, is the offensive genius that they brought in. So, going to be a fun offense to watch. Just Mike McCoy. God, he just ruined Arizona. David Johnson led the league in running back receptions in the years prior, and then last year he just wasn't even being used. It's like, what the hell are we? What are you doing? Anyway, he should bounce back. He should be right up there. He should have been right up there with Barkley, McCaffrey, and Kamara last year. Just a real shame that he wasn't. So I expect him to be there this year. 8th on the list, we have Travis Kelce. Only tight end in the list. He's the new Gronk. He's the primary red zone target for Mahomes. So, what else can you say? Big guy, catches everything. I expect him to score a lot this year. 9th on the list, OBJ. New team, Cleveland. He should pair well with Baker. And there are always concerns when a wide receiver goes to a new team. Historically, their production always dips. So, however, his quarterback before was Eli Manning, and there's some clips on Twitter where they show where it's just like missed Eli targets with OBJ, and he's just streaking wide open, and he's either overthrown, underthrown, thrown to another receiver. It's hilarious. I don't expect that to happen so often with Baker. So, and it seems like he's happy where he's at. As long as he could stay out of the headlines, off the field, OBJ should have a great year. And last on the list, rounding it out, we got Davante Adams. Aaron Rodgers, number 1 target. He's been carrying that, the wide receiver load. They don't really have a wide receiver too. I mean, they have Geronimo Allison and Valdez Scantling now, but not really anybody that Rodgers can rely on. So I expect Davante Adams to eat. Mike McCarthy is a questionable play caller, to say the least. He and Rodgers don't get along the best. The Packers' defense is just terrible. They play in a tough division. I expect the Packers to be trailing a lot this year, so Davante Adams should benefit from that game script where they have to throw. There we have it. Those are my top 10 fantasy football players for 2019. Hope you jotted them down. Let's see. I only got a few minutes here, but I just wanted to talk briefly about the Padres. We got Tatis going on IL on the 10-day IL for back spasms, and people are losing their shit. Well, maybe not people, but I did see a few people on Twitter saying, "Oh, he's injury prone." He broke a thumb last year. He had, a knee issue earlier in the year, and and then now these back spasms. I mean, come on, guys. He's 20 years old. He's 20. He's basically a kid, and you see how hard this guy plays. He's gonna get nicked up a little bit. he doesn't have the, I don't know. He doesn't have the knowledge yet to hold back, to maybe play at like 90%, so that he has a little bit more longevity. So, I mean, I'm not too worried about it. He's going to be a great player. He has the potential of being the best Padre ever. Hopefully the Padres can pay him when the time comes, but, you know, guys, just chill out. We weren't going anywhere this season. It's better for him to shut it down if he's not feeling right than to go out there and risk further injury so he can get some consolation prize for Padres fans with the Rookie of the Year title. I'm tired of these consolation prizes. I'm tired of us being happy with mascot days. I want the real thing finally. So let's focus on that. Right now the Padres are on pace for 77 wins. I think they won 66 games last year, so next year 88, right? You know, maybe if they start Austin Hedges all games next year, that'll happen. But yeah, that's all I got, guys. I got to get into work. Draft season's here. So nice. All right, let's get it, guys. See ya.